In this presentation, we will set up job costing items within QuickBooks. This is going to be the major tool that allows the magic to happen for job costing within QuickBooks. Here we are in our company file, one job cost tracking work in process. We've got the open windows open. You can open the open windows by selecting the view dropdown and the open windows list. What we're now going to go to is the item list. Before we do so, however, let's consider our Excel worksheet. I'm back on the example tab, and let's think of the tool that we're trying to set up here. Note that what we want to do, as we saw in a prior presentation, is to be able to have some supporting documentation for the work in process account and the finished goods, so that it will be supported by subsidiary accounts, which is going to be broken out by job, as we saw in the prior presentation. Now, if I do that in Excel, as we will do it in Excel, you'll note what I'll have to do then, just like we would have to do if we want another kind of account that's going to be broken out by accounts receivable, broken out by customer. I'll have to actually enter the transaction into Excel to get the GL account right, then enter the transaction somehow into a job cost sheet, and then double check that the two things are in balance like this. That's two transactions. We don't really want that to happen in QuickBooks. What we would like to do is have one transaction happen, have some kind of mechanism that will then connect that transaction from the general ledger parent account and the subsidiary job account with one transaction, making it less likely that we're going to have some difference between the two reports, making it less of a job for us to have to enter two transactions and less worry about things being off balance, considering they're going to be geared by one mechanism, just as we would with accounts receivable. You'll recall accounts receivable in QuickBooks, you can't post to that account unless you assign a customer, because QuickBooks is saying, hey, I need to create this other report that ties into this GL account, and I need to know the customer to do that. And so we want to say, how can we get a similar mechanism to support the work in process when the work in process has more detail, such as direct materials, direct labor, and factory overhead, not just the job? Well, we're going to do that with the lists. We're going to do that with the items. Back to QuickBooks then, we're going to go to the lists up top. We're going to go to the items. So we're going to look at the items, and we're going to set up 3 items. Now, you can get a lot more detailed with the items. We'll get more detailed in future presentations, but right now we just want to understand this primary mechanism for this problem. So we're going to tie it out. We're just going to create our 3 items. So we're going to hit the drop up, or the items down below, which is a drop up or a rise up, and we're going to go up to the new item up top. And we're going to create this. It's actually going to be a service item. So we're going to keep it on the service item. We're not going to be dealing with inventory here. So we're going to say it's going to be a service item. Now, we are going to be tracking the job, which you can think of as kind of like inventory. But note, we're going to track that in a work in process type of account. So we're going to say service item. The key point here then is we want to select this checkbox. That checkbox is going to basically break out so we see a cost side and a sales size. This is going to be in a similar fashion as we would think of when we think of recording an inventory type of item. But it serves a bit of a different purpose here, because what we would like to do is make this service item so that we can use it on the billing side when we create the invoice. And we also want to make this service item so when we can put it on the costing siding and track it to jobs. So it's a double-sided item here that we're going to need to set up. That's going to be the key point. It's not inventory, because I'm not going to be tracking inventory units with this, but you're going to have a similar type of setup with a cost and a pricing section on it. I'm going to name this item. We're going to name this to be direct materials. Now, you might want to number the items. I'm just going to put in direct materials with that for now with no number. I'm going to keep the cost without anything in it. I'm going to keep it as 0. I'm going to populate this as we create the forms. So we're going to keep this as 0. If it was a standardized cost, we can put the standardized cost here, but for now, keeping it at 0. Now, the expense account is going to be a bit of a twist here, a little bit of a different than you might see in the normal type of setup, because what we would like to do is set this up and put it into the work in process account. So note, you might see different systems that will be using QuickBooks and put this account to cost of goods sold. We're going to put it here to the work in process, and we're going to run 2 different systems so you can see it worked towards the work in process account and what will happen if you set that to cost of goods sold. So I'm going to set this on this problem into a work in process account. Now, we're going to have to set that up as we go. It's going to be an other current assets type of account. So I'm going to say this is a work in progress account, sometimes referred to as a WIP, WIP account. So I'm going to say tab and set that up. We're going to set that up not as an expense, but as an asset account. So this is going to be an other current asset account. Why? Because as we enter things into the job, what we want to do, if I go back to our Excel sheet, is to be populating this information into the work in process account, increasing the work in process account until the job is completed, and then expensing the entire thing in the format of cost and goods sold. That means everything we purchase that goes into the job shouldn't be going to cost of goods sold at the point of purchase if we're going to be on more of a normal accrual type of method. It should be going into the asset account of work in process until the job has been completed. Now, we're not going to get into percentage of completion and completed contract type of alternative methods right now. Just note that normally, under normal accrual accounting, you would be putting it into the work in process account until the job was completed. Now, if you're running percentage of completion or completed contract, note that you're typically going to need, no matter what system you're using, you're probably going to need an end of the period adjusting entry or something like that to review the books at the end of the period. So no matter what system we will use, we're still probably going to need basically an adjusting entry type part. We still might use something like a CPA firm to do that adjusting process at the end. So note, this system, the first system, is kind of the most proper system for us, and it's going to take the least kind of adjusting entry at the end because we're putting that information into the work in process account, which is basically the proper accrual method that we will be doing, and then expensing it at the end of the job when it's completed. All right, so let's go back over here. It's going to be going into work in process. It's an other current asset account. We're going to say save and close. And then I'm not going to put a vendor in it. We're going to have the sales side. And on the income account, it's simply going to be income. And now we can call it income. We can call it revenue, whatever we want to call the income account. I'm going to call it income account. You could break it out on different types of income if you would like, but I'm just going to put it all to income. We're going to set that up. There's our income account and save and close. There's our first item. I'm going to say OK. And there we have the direct materials. I'm going to do the same thing for direct labor and factory overhead. These are the three major kind of groupings or components of items that will typically be included in the job. We got the materials, we got the labor, and we've got the overhead, which is basically everything else, the bucket of everything else. So I'm going to set up an item now for the direct labor. We're going to go to the items drop up or the items rise up. And then we're going to go to the new and service, and this is going to be the direct labor, and we could put that in the description too, direct labor, and no rate. I'm going to make this a double-sided one again, so I'm going to check this box, double-sided. Cost of goods sold is now going to go to our work in process account, and the other side is going to go to income. So there we have that. I'm going to say OK. There we have our two items, and we probably want to put direct materials in the description. So I'm going to double click on this one and put the description direct materials. I might as well put that here and there. So I'm going to say save that. And then we'll do the last one with the arrow that's saying drop down, but it's really a item rise up, and we're going to go to the new item again. And this one is going to be factory overhead. So factory overhead. And I'm going to copy that and put that in the description. I'm going to make it a double-sided field, so it's on the other side. This one, once again, going to our work in process account, which is an other current asset type of account. This one going to our revenue account. So there we have it. That's going to be our major tool. Now, I'm going to say OK. And now we're going to use these items in order to populate our work in process form. Now, note, when you set up these items, then, if I go to the home page, these items are designed to be used with a particular form. They're not designed to be used with journal entries. So as we use the items, note that we're going to have to basically think of, all right, what do I want to do from a journal entry standpoint, debits and credits? And then how can I use the item tool to do what I want it to do without simply entering a journal entry, but instead using forms? And therefore, we might do some things to forms. We will do some things to forms that are a bit unusual. They're going to do things like entering a check with a zero balance in it or something like that, so that we can use the form to basically record the journal entry, but not just record the journal entry, also record the activity to the job so that the two things tie out. And that's really kind of The thing that allows us to do that are the items, and then the use of the items within the forms, which will help us to tie the jobs together, but it also will allow us to, or require us to use the forms in a bit untraditional type of way. So we'll see that in future presentations.